Hi guys! So I have decided recently that Wednesday's videos are going to be dedicated to writing, with maybe the exception of end of the month wrap up and TBR type videos. I originally started my channel with the intention of talking about writing because, as a lot of you may or may not know, I am writing my own book, and I know there are a lot of other people out there who also are really passionate about writing, but the writing community on YouTube just isn't as much of a thing as the booktube community. To give myself a little bit of a push, I'm going to start dedicating weekly videos to writing. Before I dive into the topic of today's video, I also just want to point out that if you guys have your own author-tube channels, feel free to link those in the comment section down below. That way, whenever I do these kinds of videos, I can link your guys' channel in the description bar so that if you guys have similar topics that you've discussed, or just in general have writing videos, I can link those for people who are interested in getting more writing advice. Because none of my works are out there yet for you guys to decide whether or not my opinions on writing are valid, you can check out Brandon Sanderson's lectures on writing. They are up from his BYU lectures on YouTube, and they are extremely helpful. That being said, the first video I wanted to dedicate to my Writing Wednesday videos would be about world building, and because I love fantasy, I wanted to dive straight into magic. It is of course possible to write fantasy books that don't have any magic at all, but if magic is something that you would like to include within your story, there are a few things that I find are really good guidelines or questions to ask yourself to help you set up how the magic is going to alter everything from the characters, their behaviors, and the world itself. The first and probably most obvious thing that you need to consider when writing magic is the rules and limitations. Anyone who is an avid fantasy reader can probably attest to being frustrated at a book because they don't understand the rules and limitations of the magic system, and as a writer you want to make sure that your story is not going to be one of those books. The three things that I find the most helpful when considering the rules and limitations is deciding, can anybody use the magic? Are there consequences to using the magic? If so, what are they? And is it difficult or is it easy to use the magic? A really good example of a book series that takes these things to the extreme you can see very easily the answers to these questions would be Wheel of Time. In Wheel of Time, the only people who use magic are women because the magic that men would draw from has been tainted by the Dark One, so any man that does show capabilities of using magic is assumed will eventually go insane. Knowing these kinds of things and how they fit into your story is going to help you figure out how you're going to explain the magic system and explain the consequences and things like that, whereas if you don't know that, you have no idea how to write that in. The second thing I find is really beneficial in asking yourself with magic is, how does the magic system or magic affect society? Just like before, this can be broken up into three smaller categories, being, does the magic system affect class, profession, and politics? A book that perfectly illustrates this is the Red Queen series by Victoria Aveyard. In this series, people are broken up into silver bloods and red bloods who quite literally bleed silver or red. Silvers are the people that can use magic, and reds are the people that supposedly can't. Because of this, silvers are at the top ruling end of society and the reds are at the bottom. Somewhat overlapping with that last point, the third point I want to mention is, how do people treat those that can use magic? If people have awesome abilities that others don't, the rest of society is either going to worship them, respect them, hate them, or envy them, or some other emotion that I didn't mention. However they do feel about it is going to affect how your main protagonist feels about magic also. A book that I read very recently called Roar by Cora Carmack takes place in a world where storms are very destructive and catastrophic, and people are very afraid of them. As a result, people who have storm magic and have the ability to calm these storms are the ones that end up ruling society. The fourth point that I want to mention is, do people in your book even know that magic or magical beings exist? If people do know that magic exists, you can kind of go through the other points I've mentioned and figure out how the answers to those are going to affect your world building. If people don't know that magic exists, then you have a whole other set of points that you have to consider. How is the reader or character going to discover that there's magic? Is there an entire other society that uses magic, or is it just this one person? Will the characters that discover they have magic have to keep it a secret, or is it something that they're going to tell the rest of the world? A lot of comic book stories fall into these questions, as well as Daughter of Smoke and Bone, the Artemis Fowl series, and the Shadowhunter series. I am by no means saying that writing this kind of story is easy, but generally speaking, I find it easier to write that kind of a story because whenever you explain something to the reader, you can do it in a way where it feels like the main character is just discovering these things. So your info dumping doesn't feel like info dumping, it feels like the main character is being explained to, and thus the reader is being explained to also. If magic is something that everybody already knows about in the story, it's a lot harder to be subtle about explaining rules and limitations, how it affects society and all that stuff, without just going into paragraphs of info dumping. Anyway, there you go guys. There are some just major 4 points to consider when writing magic in your story. There are more things to consider than just the ones I've mentioned when you're writing magic, so if you guys want me to do another video solely focused on magic and world building, I'd be happy to do it. Also, I gave some specific examples of books that fall into these categories, but because not everybody has read or knows of the books I've mentioned, if you guys have other books you'd like to point out that maybe are even more popular or more people have likely read them, leave those in the comment section down below because the more information that's available, the better. Like I said at the beginning of the video, if you guys have your own channels or videos that talk about writing, feel free to let me know that in the comment section down below. And I am going to be doing a fundraiser here very soon to help raise money for charities, specifically one that helps children all around the world, and $500 raised can help children learn to read. So if you guys are interested in learning more about that, I'll have info linked in the description bar. If you guys have any writing topics that you would like me to go in depth with or make videos towards, let me know that. But anyway, if you guys like the video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Click the little bell icon so you get notified when I post new videos, and check out some of my videos right over here. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you guys later. Bye.